Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Computer-Based Information Systems. I'm your instructor, Professor Keith Hurl, and for this chat, I won't keep you too long. I just want to review some of the major concepts in Chapter 1 of your textbook. So Chapter 1 of your textbook is very interesting because it goes into the importance of studying management information systems. So why study it? Why is it important to know about management information systems for your career? All right, so there are some buzzwords, some terminology, some important people, and certain philosophies and laws that these people have developed that are related to information systems. So I want to go over some of them briefly and go over some important concepts for Chapter 1. I'm also going to give you a video chat assignment that you're going to upload to Canvas, all right? And you'll see a placeholder for that assignment, and that assignment will be given sometime during this video, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. You should see my screen pop up, okay? And you should see it like a 3D image of my screen. And what I want to do, I want to go into PowerPoint. I want to start PowerPoint up here, right? So this is the Chapter 1 PowerPoint that is related to your Using MIS book. By this time, everyone should have registered for the My MIS lab. You will see some assignments that you have to complete using that lab. There are a couple of videos that you need to watch. There are no assessments or any questions that you're going to be asked I'm sorry, there's one video you're going to watch, right? The other one is not a video. It's actually a case study that you're going to walk through, and you may have to answer some questions for that. But for the video itself, there's no questions that you're going to need to answer. You just need to watch the video. The case study, you're going to have to walk yourself through the case study. Once you watch the video and complete the case study, you'll trigger a completion flag, which means that you'll get credit for doing that work. And then there are 25 questions that you're going to have to answer. Those 25 questions is a chapter quiz. So when you take the chapter quiz, at the end of every chapter, you will be taking a quiz. So the chapter quiz will represent the quiz grade in Canvas. All right, so you'll see in the beginning of this chapter, the chapter begins like, I think every chapter with a case study, all right? And you're gonna go through, when you go through the case study, the business case study for Chapter 1 that I assigned to you, you're gonna go through some of these concepts, so I'm not gonna explain them, all right? You also wanna review the module, because in the module, I put a couple of pages that walk you through some of these concepts, right? Some of the learning objectives you can read. I'm not gonna go over each one. I'm just gonna go over some of the important concepts I want you to review or pay close attention to for Chapter 1, right? So this chapter goes into why MIS is important. MIS obviously means Management Information Systems. And it's important because Management Information Systems is related to technology. And as you know, technology is changing business. It's making business more efficient. It's changing the dynamics of business as a whole. It's changing staffing needs. When you have automation, when you have artificial intelligence, that can certainly take jobs away from people. When you can work from home and you can do recorded video chats, when you can have live teleconferences with your employees using video conferencing interfaces, that really changes the face of business. It changes the face of the economy too, right? Because if you think about someone who's working from home, that person doesn't have to actually travel and either use public transportation or drive or get to work using any type of automated means. You know, anytime you're using public transportation or you're driving, you also have to be mindful about the environment. So with less people on the road, then I guess technically the environment is a little bit better. The air is cleaner. There's less traffic, all right? As you probably could tell, you know, I've lived in New York City pretty much my entire life. If you think about traffic in New York City, it seems to be exponentially getting worse, right? So does that mean more and more people are working from home? I guess you can't relate. It's not like kind of like a cause and effect type of thing. It could just mean that more people have cars, more people are traveling to work. It could mean that there are less efficient ways to travel on the roads. Maybe there aren't enough lanes on the highway. So there's a lot of different things, but for all intents and purposes, as you can see, when you have technology that helps actually facilitate working from another environment, there's kind of like a domino effect to that, all right? So if you talk about the information age, you're talking about production, distribution, control of information. Those are the primary economic drivers. So production, distribution, control of information, right? Those three drivers are primary economic drivers related to the information age. The information age is the age that we're in currently, all right? And it really influences a lot of how a business operates. When a business has access to information, all right, it helps produce products, all right? That information helps the business produce products more efficiently, right? One way that I can describe that is that when a business has information about, say, product specifications, all right, that information can come in the form of data that's assembled in a certain way to produce useful information. When those product specifications are put into, say, a program, a computer program that then communicates with a printer, then the printer can produce an output that's related to those specifications, right? Those specifications don't have to be inputted manually. Those specifications may even change automatically based on the way the printer communicates with the computer or with the interface that is actually allowing that printer to print. So what I'm saying is that specifications can change automatically based on how the printer is printing something in this example, right? And something that I can think of is a printer that can actually print products, all right? What do you call that printer, right? Think of a printer that can actually print products. So a printer that takes plastic pellets and prints products, quote unquote, prints a product, a tangible, something you can feel besides print on a piece of paper. Okay. What is the name of a type of printer like that? So for, I'm going to ask you certain questions during this chat. That's your first question, all right? What do you call the printer that can print products? And you can Google this stuff too. But when you talk about production, distribution, all right, distribution is part of the information age too, because when information travels on a network, that information is traveling in one of the most efficient ways possible. Sending email, distributing mail, right? Mail now still comes to our homes in a physical way, but a lot of mail now comes electronically. Think of electronic bill pay systems. All those bills that people once got through the snail mail, which is the US Postal Service, right, is now coming electronically, which is having, like I mentioned before with the telecommuting, working from home, is having a lot of impact. It's having some positive impacts on the environment. There's less paper waste, less trees that have to be cut down, more forests, I guess, right? That helps the environment, right? It can also help decrease the workload for the US Postal Services. When there's decreased workload, there could be people who are laid off. So you can see how and what I'm trying to get here is that one change digitally to the environment can have several repercussions. It's almost like a domino effect, okay? And these all drive the economy in various ways. Right? If there's less people cutting down trees, there's going to be less job for, say, people who cut down trees, right? People who would cut down trees in forests. That's a big industry in certain states because there has to be less paper produced, right? If there's going to be more email, all right? So that's one small example. You can give several more examples about that. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but you can think of a limitless amount of examples. The digital revolution means we're going from mechanical analog devices to digital devices. And what that means basically, when you talk about a mechanical device, I like to relate this to a hard drive. A hard drive, as you probably know, is the primary storage device in a computer. Most hard drives, say 10, 15, 20 years ago, if not all hard drives 20 years ago, were mechanical. Mechanical means moving parts. So in that hard drive, you had platters, you have needles that read information from platters that are moving. What's happening now with the digital revolution is everything is becoming digital. All right. It's becoming non-mechanical, solid state. All right. With that, that's a big upgrade. Okay. When you have less moving parts, you have less breakdown. All right. So think of a car engine. You have a lot of moving parts in that engine. Cars can break down. Cars do break down occasionally, right? On the highway, you have traffic. There may be a car that's broken down in one of the lanes, really delays traffic. You have a lot of moving parts. Now think of an engine without any moving parts, an engine that just operates seamlessly without anything actually causing combustion, right? You can think of a battery operated car, right? Battery operated car has less moving parts than, say, a traditional engine. All right. When you talk about a battery operated car, I believe they still have engines, but there are less moving parts because there's less activity that needs to occur to make that car move. Something that you may want to think of, and your second question that I'm going to ask you is, what company produces in the United States, all right, has the greatest production of electric cars? What company produces the most electric cars in this country? And electric car consumption by consumers is growing, all right? And that's because electric cars are less prone for mechanical breakdowns, and they're a lot more efficient than gas guzzlers that we're used to. And they're actually coming down in price, okay? And they're also controlled primarily by computers, computer-controlled engines. All right, and a lot of our engines now, even with the mechanical cars, when you talk about gas-powered cars, engines are controlled somewhat by computers, but the newer electric cars have more computer components built in. In fact, many of them to come out within the next 10 years are going to be driverless cars, automatic cars, okay? So I want you to think of, the reason why I'm going into detail about this is important. This is like the focus of chapter 1, is kind of like that domino effect, and how technology is just changing the world for the better, or maybe even for the worse. Okay, I want you to think about that. Right. One, and I just want to go over a couple of these laws that kind of relate to that, and then we'll end this chat. All right. If you talk about Bell's law, all right, what's Bell? All right, so Bell's law basically says that there's a new class of computers that are established. So basically, new class of computers establishes a new industry each decade. What that means is that new computers come out, new types. It doesn't only have to be computers; it can just be new technologies. New technologies will establish a new industry. Now, one of the relations that I can make for that is that a newer technology that came out and it's not only computers themselves, but it's, like I said, it's technologies. So one new technology that came out, and I think your book in chapter 1 references this, is digital streaming. All right. Do you remember the store? You may be too young for this, Blockbuster Video. I remember being young and then going to Blockbuster Video and actually renting videos, actual DVDs at the time, or even before DVDs, you had something called VHS cassettes. You may remember that. I rented VHS cassettes and DVDs, and what I did with them is I watched them, obviously, and then I had to bring them back, I think, within 3 days. I actually went to Blockbuster Video. I took the car out, or I walked. There was actually one about a half a mile from my house where I used to live in Queens. I walked there. I took the video out. They were all displayed boxes on the wall, and I would bring the box up to the cashier, and then the cashier would get the actual video for me, usually in DVD format. I'd watch it, and then I'd have to return it. So think of the inefficiencies of that happening. What replaced that? Video streaming. What new industry came up with video? So there's a whole new industry now called the video streaming industry that put Blockbuster out of business. Blockbuster was slow to react and slow to adapt to that industry. And there's another law that's related to that too, which I'll get to later. When a company is too slow to adapt to an industry, that company is at a greater chance of going bankrupt. And Blockbuster went belly up, went bankrupt. So that industry, video streaming, digital streaming industry, is making lots of companies today very rich, and making companies that were known for video distribution only into movie studios, into production studios. And you can think of one like Netflix. Netflix used to be, came out originally, that company was developed to make it easier to rent those DVDs because they would be sent directly to your home. You watch it and then you would send it back. So the mail was involved with that, and delivering and producing these discs and having a whole production factory set up to store these discs. That's all gone away now with this new digital model. And Netflix really was one at the forefront of that and adopted that very quickly, really sprang on that, put Blockbuster almost single-handedly out of business. Think of all the savings Netflix is experiencing now. It doesn't need any of these factories or these warehouses to store all these DVDs, these millions of DVDs. They don't need the post office. They don't need to spend money on postage, right? Everything is being now delivered through a computer network. And who's paying the postage on that? We are, as consumers. We're paying the postage because we're basically paying not only Blockbuster for the service, but take that away, we're also paying for the internet service, right? Which is kind of like the postage, right? So you can see how this new technology, digital streaming, established a whole new industry. All right, a whole new streaming industry. Amazon also, which used to be only a bookseller, is also part of that industry. So I want you to think about that as well. And that's all part of Bell's law, what I just described. All right, something that you need to also be, and this is really interesting, be familiar with, is the way computer price and performance ratio decreases. What we mean by that is that in 1996, how much was the price per million transistors? A transistor is basically a switch inside a computer that makes the computer work. The more transistors a computer has within it, the more powerful that computer is. So price per million transistors back in 1996 was $110. All right, and computers have millions of transistors, all right, inside them. Now look how much 1 million transistors are or were in 2015, 7 cents. So you're going down from $110 in 96, and 20 years later, all right, you're at 7 cents, all right, just about 20 years later. So you can see how price of technology is going down, and technology is becoming more and more efficient and more powerful. Now this brings us to Metcalfe's law. Metcalfe's law basically says that the more users there are on a network, okay, the more value that network has, all right, and the more value it contains intrinsically for the company and also for the users. If something is abandoned, all right, and if there's less users, the less value that network has. So something I can kind of relate to that is, do you guys remember MySpace? Okay, I want you, your third question here is MySpace. What is MySpace? Is MySpace still around? And if so, what is its primary focus? Well, MySpace used to be the primary social media hub on the internet, all right, maybe about 20 years or so ago. Actually, maybe about 15 is probably a better relation. MySpace was before Facebook, and it was like Facebook. It was very popular. It had millions and millions of users. It was a very valuable social media network, very valuable, worth probably close to $1 billion in value, right? So whoever was in MySpace, and one of the guys who developed it, his name was Dave. He always became Dave's friend when you joined MySpace. Well, Dave is not doing too well right now because Dave is not getting as many users because Facebook primarily took them away. Now Facebook is popular. So it's all about popularity. That's what Metcalfe's law says. The more popular you are, the more you're going to be worth, right? Think of YouTube, the YouTube network. The more people who watch YouTube videos, all right, the more money YouTube is making, the more popular that network. So a lot of things in life have to do with popularity, whether you like it or not, right? Sometimes the more popular something is, the more valuable it is. And that popularity, we have to realize, can be lost overnight, okay? And that's what Metcalfe's law says. It says the more popular a network, the more valuable it is. All right, and there's a formula for that, okay? The formula for that is directly on this slide, all right? And I want you, for question number 4, is just to state that formula, right? So we have different laws, and there's other laws too, which I'm not going to go too crazy with, but some of the ones that I just reviewed was Moore's Law and Metcalfe's Law. You can review the other ones, which are basically very similar, okay, on your own. Okay. And this is where we can, where we talk about Blockbuster. Look at Blockbuster. In 2004, it had $5.9 billion in revenue. It was making $5.9 billion. And then 6 years later, Blockbuster, all right, it wasn't popular anymore. Digital streaming did it in. It then filed for bankruptcy. Okay. 6 years later, that is very, very sad. And it's because streaming video changed the competitive landscape. And something that went along with streaming video, which you have to realize, is that networks became a lot quicker. Okay, high-speed network connections. Right? If you ever saw the buffering, right? Buffering, that was never a good thing. You don't see that as much anymore because networks are getting quicker, right? Getting more powerful, transferring data at a higher bandwidth. And that is because of new technologies that scientists are developing, that technologists are developing, right? Right, so you can see how you can look at these laws and you can think like an entrepreneur and think of how these laws can affect you in helping you become a better business person, all right? How can you start your own business as an entrepreneur keeping these laws in mind, right? Just think about that, all right? Now, I'm not going to go this stuff here. You can look at the module. I put some good stuff in the module that relates to this, right? And we're going to wrap this up within 5 minutes. Some other thing that I wanted to go over, something I want to do is I just want to go here to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can do go to bls.gov. It's a great website where you can actually look at the latest job trends. And so BLS is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's a government entity. It's a government department. And what it does is tracks jobs, tracks how much jobs pay, tracks the popularity of jobs, tracks profession. So if I put in here information technology, you'll see a lot of jobs that are related to information technology. Computer and information research scientists. Let's look at that one. You'll see the average salary in 2017 was $114,520 per year. What type of education you need to get in, master's degree. So this is good to look at, and then you get to a sense of what different jobs do. So your book references it. I think I've been using this for years now, and it always comes in handy, right? Just to know a little bit more about job outlooks, right? So let me go back there. And then some other important aspects. You can read about the components of an information system, which is pretty interesting. That's also in chapter 1. So go over those components. Right? And it goes in a little bit into Google, all right, and why Google is so popular. So read about that. Another thing that's really interesting is Amazon.com's stock price. All right, Amazon.com again is one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world, selling and conducting, selling products and services and conducting business online. All right, in 2015, its stock price was $600 per share. I'm sorry, yes, it was $600 per share, right? So what is the stock price today? That's your last question. As of today, which is January 30th, 2019, was Amazon stock price. In 2015, you have $600 a share. Did it go up or did it go down? Or is it about the same? Okay. So I want to stop here. I just wanted to go over, some of these important concepts. I don't want to, babble too much. Wanted to give you some questions to answer, and then get the rest of the assignments done. All right, for this week, and they're in your modules. If you have any problems, you can always contact me. It's always a pleasure teaching you guys, and I will see you guys in Canvas, and I will see you, you'll be turning in your assignments. We don't have a discussion board this week, but if you have any questions about anything, you can always email me. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a live chat or a video chat next week. If we do, you will see it posted when the new module comes up. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everybody.